can adjudicate whether a sankalpa is coming from a pure place or not. The first step is, if you've got a guru, ask your guru, is this a good thing for me? What do you see in my future? If I sign up for this relationship, is this going to bring me to freedom or is this going to bring me to bondage? If I take the sankalpa of getting a raise or getting a promotion, is this going to give me more time to spend with God, or is it just going to give me more money and I have to stay longer at the office every day? If you have the privilege of having a relationship with your guru, then why don't you shoot your guru an email or call her up and say, hey, Ma, or I'm coming down to see you. I got a major sankalpa coming up in my life. Is this appropriate for me or not? If you have an objective sounding board who has only your best interest in her mind, avail it. Use that. That would be the best thing that you could do, to cultivate discrimination until you're capable, or you've already made all the major decisions of your life and now your life is on automatic pilot. That's also a possibility. But wait, until you get into that groove, until you get into that bhavana, if you have the guru and you have a relationship with her, use it. Avail it. And if you cannot avail it, and she's sitting on a mountaintop in the Himalayas and there's no way to communicate with her, but you sit with her at your altar and say, Mom, what would you do under these circumstances? What's the best thing for me? Is it important for me to have wealth and power and status? Or is it important for me to have dedication and purity and time? How shall I proceed in this circumstance? What is the best outcome that I can possibly achieve by performing in this way? Once you have that understanding, it becomes very, very clear. How do you discriminate what actions are going to bring you closer to your goal? How much do you need in order to reach your goal? You don't want too much, you don't want too little, you want just the right amount. So now figure out, what is the goal? What would be the highest and best usage of this tool in the hands of the Divine Mother? That would be the question to you. What is the highest purpose of your life? And how do you reach that goal? And what are the permissible tolerances? Can you buy some indulgences along the way? If you want to step out and have a little party, well, that's okay, as long as you don't have such a hangover you can't go to work tomorrow. You've got to do it according to the logic of what you're trying to accomplish. So, sadhana shakti, the best thing you can do is to consult your guru and say, hey, is this appropriate? Or is this inappropriate? And if it's inappropriate, how much inappropriateness can I afford?
Question from Cameron in Cottonwood.
Namaste, Cameron.
Should we still strive to love and embrace family members that are emotionally abusive? Try to get to the root of the agitation? Is there a point when it's considered valid to put space between you and the family member?
Always you want to put space between yourself and agitation. Always. There's no necessity for you to accept abuse. However, if there are moments where there's no abuse taking place, maybe you could try to build a bridge. As a sadhu, Cameron, we're all engineers. And we have to engineer a bridge from an abusive family member or potentially abusive family member to someone who has greater insight and greater clarity, greater poise and greater centeredness. Don't lose your center, and do not be conducted to another family member's anxiety or their abuse or their violence or their foul mouth or any of the other asuras that come to attack them. Do not give up your peace. But from that place of peace, can you make an offering to build the bridge? Is there something you could do for that individual that demonstrates that you're not worthy of being abused? You're worthy of respect. And that would be more appropriate. So try in your way, in any way, to look for ways that you can build bridges to people who have a habit or a tendency to be abusive. And then, as we were discussing last week, do not be afraid of rejection and don't be afraid of being insulted. Accept the insult and just think that was a poor investment. Maybe I'll try another avenue. I'll try another way. I'll find something that endears me to that spirit, and then I can build the bridge. Don't worry about insults. Our egos are strong enough to accept them. It's not going to change you or dissuade you from your purity or from your clarity or from your spiritual longing because another family member is abusive. In fact, it will probably root you and ground you and sink your roots more deeply because of their abuse. Now, I'm not advocating going out and look to be abused. I'm advocating go out and look for ways that you can bring harmony to the situation.
Question from Nanda.
Namaste, Nandama.
Namaste, Swamiji. Can you tell us about the very first time when you felt that the goddess became a real entity in your life? Thank you.
No. I can tell you about some experiences when she took over my being, but when she became an entity in my life, I can't. She was an entity in my life from the beginning of my life. I just didn't recognize it. I was looking for her in so many different forms. When I met my guru in India and I began to perform sadhana according to Hindu tradition, and I started studying scripture, she became more of a reality and more of a reality and more of a reality. It's just a relationship that I had from the very beginning. My guru said this goddess is here and we get to worship her, and this is how we worship, and now you focus on your worship and she'll take over. And so it wasn't like she was not an entity prior to that. It was that I was looking in so many different ways, in so many different fields, to find something that really made sense to me as a goal or an objective to which I could dedicate my life. It wasn't like she was a non-entity.
So that's the same for all of us, right?
Absolutely.
So for Nanda, it's not an entity, but the mother's already with her, whether she realizes it or not.
Oh, yes. The mother is always with her, with us all, whether we realize it or not. But she is there, and we do realize her, except we call her by different names. We realize her in different forms, and then we call her by different names. And sometimes I call her by the name of pleasurable experiences, and sometimes I call her by the name of adventurous experience, but it's all the same energy that's pulling me along that says, hey, evolve, mister, you can't just sit still. You can't just sit there until I give you the permission. And then one day she gave me the permission. And I just sat still. And it was really nice. it was a way of seeing her without a form. It was an experience of seeing her as the thing in itself. There was like, it wasn't like the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita where this form was spitting fire but it was as far as I could perceive, was all me. And every sound I heard was the song of a hymn, me praising me. And there was no else. There was nothing different. And it went on and on and on into an infinity. And I wasn't limited to this particular form. And she wasn't an entity in my life. She was my life. She was all the force of my life, the power of my life, the yearning of my life. She was all there was. There wasn't anything else but her. And that lasted for some months. Actually, it lasted for a few years. And then I did another sadhana. And she was there. And I was doing sadhana. And there were the two of us. And that was fun too.
She got a follow-up question. She said, when did you recognize it first? But you kind of answered that.
I hope so.
Question from Kali in Barbados.
Namaste, Kali Ma.
Namaste, Swamiji. How can I become like Sita? How can I live in the Sita consciousness? Thank you, Swamiji.
Kali Ma, I believe it's just a decision we make about ourselves. Who am I? What do I want from my life? What am I trying to accomplish? What are my goals? What are my values? How do I want to be that way? It doesn't mean that I have to be married to Ram before I can become Sita. Sita was Sita before she got married. It's not Ram that's going to make you Sita, it's Kali. You'll make yourself Sita, Kali Ma. And you can do that by reminding yourself, first and foremost, how privileged you are to have a sadhana, a discipline. Whether you need it or not, just like you get up in the morning and take a shower, whether you need it or not. You brush your teeth, whether you need it or not. You get to do sadhana, whether you need it or not. And it becomes the fact of your life. This is the place where you get to remind yourself, you get to wash yourself, all the dross of duality gets wiped off of your body. It's just like your brass utensils. You shine them every day, and then they just shine and shine and shine. And if you leave them to tarnish, then you have to work twice as hard. And then you're going to rub and rub and rub, and then you start shining again. And so the first thing that you can do is create the environment in which the most important thing you do in the morning is sadhana. And then all through the day, everything that you do is important only insofar as it supports or it expands your sadhana. All that you're doing, the work that you do in the household, the work that you do in the office, the shopping, the cleaning, the cooking, the taking care of everybody that you take care of, and all the things and all the jobs that you do are important only because they empower you to do even greater sadhana. What a privilege to be Sita, even if you are Kali. Kali becomes Sita. And she becomes the purity, the pure nature of consciousness. And whether your husband participates or does not participate doesn't in any way diminish what you are doing. If he can participate, that's even a greater blessing. Serve him like you would serve Ram. You're going to do it anyway. You might as well enjoy it. You got to put the food on the table. You might as well do it nicely and set the table. You could even put a flower there in the middle. You could even light a candle. You could even do, there are so many things that we all can do to give a little more in our every circumstance so that we can remember that, hey, this isn't just my duty. This is also a privilege. I want to maintain my consciousness as best as I can. This is not just for, I got to get it done. I'm obligated to fulfill this responsibility. Give a little more, it won't hurt. You're going to put the food on the table anyway, you might as well put a flower there. You're going to put the flower there, you might as well light a candle. Turn the lights down a little bit. In any way you can find a way to say to Ram, hey Ram, you're living with Sita. Just remember that. Whether you know it or not is not my concern. It's whether I remember it or not. And I want to do what I do in the nicest way I can do it. Because I got to do it anyway. I might as well have a good time doing it. And think about how this action can bring me closer and closer and closer to that ultimate objective of being Sita. Of being one with Ram.
Question from a devotee in Pennsylvania.
Namaste.
What is the right bhava to have when learning at the feet of the Guru?
Appreciation. The attitude of gratitude. Without a doubt, gosh, you are going to give me even one letter of a sentence or a word in a sentence that will bring me closer to God. Thank you. Even one letter of one word of one sentence, if it's going to give me any inspiration or any empowerment to come closer to my goal, I owe you a lot. And I want to show you how much I appreciate it. I want to demonstrate the sincerity of my devotion. I want you to know the extent of my appreciation. I think that's really a nice attitude to have towards your Guru. If I get one aksha, one letter of one word in one sentence that could improve my life, that could improve me in any way, I want to say thanks. Now, how can I say thank you to you? You who have everything in my eyes. What are you missing? Well, let me see. Let me observe your circumstance and see where I can add value. Can I take out the garbage? Can I wash the dishes? Can I clean your temple? Can I support you physically, spiritually, financially? Can I comfort you? Can I take any load away from you? These are all ways that we can search for to demonstrate how much we appreciate. It's not a quid pro quo. It's not an exchange. It's not negotiated. It's, I really want to do at least more than my part. So I can say, I love you. And I'm privileged to be here. Well, I think these are some of the ways that we can cultivate the relationship with the Guru and earn the privilege of coming closer and closer and closer until we become the Guru. Then we are Shishya. When you look at the Shisha and you see the reflection of the Guru, then you are a Shisha. You see a mirror image of what is the Guru's behavior, what is the Guru's bhavana, what is the Guru's attitude, what is the Guru's energy, how does she sit, how does she breathe, how does she speak, with what conviction, with what inspiration, with what information, how does she do what she does? Then I get to do it too.
Question from Vishweshwar in Abbott.
Namaste, Vish.
Please describe how the major characteristics of the Sundarkand, Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, relate to us. What characteristics do they represent inside us, and how do we become more like them?
Well, the story is prevailing on 7 levels of consciousness. It's a trip from the earth to the divine. It absolutely, if you say Ram is my soul and Ram is the Atma, Ram is consciousness, and Lakshman is the sankalpa, the determination to get to that consciousness. Bharat, he who shines with wisdom, is protecting the kingdom of peace so that Ram can come home and find his kingdom intact. Sita is the pure nature of consciousness, my pure attitude, my pure nature, my pure bhavana, which makes me think good thoughts, and I'm motivated for good purposes, good ends, towards a good outcome for as many as I can. Bibhishan is discrimination, who says this is wrong. Don't fight with consciousness, ego. Surrender while you have the chance. You're not going to win. Hey, brother, Ram Nehinara Bhuvaneshwara. He's the Lord of the universe. Don't think he's just merely a man and put him down. Raise him up and you will be raised. He has discrimination. And in each character demonstrates to us. Hanuman is pure devotion. He jumps across the ocean of worldliness. Just like dancing and arati, just full of devotion and full of love. It's just an expression of my love. Every one of the characters in the Sundarkand, it brings out the best values within us. And if you can see them in relationship, how they are relating to one another, the respect with which they speak and act, then we start treating everyone we speak and act with respect. The joy with which they perform whatever they have to perform. The sincerity with which they complete every task that's given. They don't do half of this one and half of that one and run off and go start another one. They do one task fully, completely, and perfectly, and then they present that. In many ways, each of the characters in the story is teaching us how we can be in every relationship in our lives. Do we have any questions inside?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Could you speak on how we can increase our relationship with the Guru, whether nearby or far away?
Yes. I can. The relationship with Guru is a love affair. And you got to invest into a love affair. You have to invest yourself, your sincerity, your being, your bhavana, your feeling. You saw it recently, Srini and Rami came, and they were totally invested. They came here and we just picked up our relationship from where we left it off the last time I saw them. There was no necessity to negotiate a new relationship. If you have that faith, if you have that love, if you have that sense of surrender invitation, inviting the Guru inside you and continuing your practice and continuing the bhavana that you feel, my soul doth magnify the Lord. Then you come in and out of a physical relationship with the Guru, and you still, the love affair continues. It doesn't dissipate, it doesn't diminish, it is not in any way compromised. The love affair just continues, and it grows, and it's more expansive, and you look for ways to add value to the life of the Guru from afar, and from near, and from where you are, and to really question, what is the best way for us to perform what we're going to perform right now? Gurus are gurus because they answer questions. And if you don't have a question, it's really hard to be a disciple. And if your question is about Sanskrit or puja or life or business or whatever it is, there are no wrong questions. There may be inappropriate answers, but that's not the disciple's fault. It's the Guru's responsibility to give a good answer. It's the disciple's responsibility to ask real questions, and then you become a disciple. So without a question, you're not a disciple. You may become a devotee, a bhakta, and you come in and out and float in and out and do whatever you have to do as an exchange. But that sense of communion, it comes from really uniting in knowledge and experience. When we start to ask questions and listen to the answers, and together we arrive at the best way forward for you and for me and for us, then we grow together. Funny about that, but that's how it works. For you and for me and for us. And then we start to plan our lives together. What's the best situation that can evolve from this circumstance? How does it work? What's the best way to do it? What's step one? What are the deliverables? What do you have to do? Where are the stepping stones? And pretty soon we've got a plan that works for you, and a plan that works for me, and a plan that works for us. And we know where we're going together. And then we grow together. And that's how you grow together. You don't dream together, you don't plan together, you don't do worship together. What do you do together? Come in and sing a song once in a night. That's not sufficient. It's got to be a give and take relationship, so you want to cultivate that relationship. Now, Guruji, these are my dreams, and these are my goals, and this is how I think it can manifest, and this is the path I propose to take. And do you see that this is a good path for me? Or do you see that this path will harmonize with your path? Or how can I make it a little closer to where you're going, Guruji? How can I make it more in tune and more in alignment with what you're doing? And as soon as you ask that question, well, then the Guru gets the privilege of sharing where she's going and how she proposes to get there, and how you can take what you're doing and put it into greater alignment with what she's doing, and then we go together. So we make a plan for you and for me and for us, individually and collectively in every relationship. And that's why the relationships work. Because we're working together. Now, you don't want to work together without a plan. Because how do you know when you've gotten to where you want to go? If you don't know where you want to go? If you don't know what the goal is, what the objective is, then how can you know when you get there? So what we want to do individually, and with ourselves, and with our friends, individually and collectively, and as a family, is to make a plan how it's going to work, where you're trying to go, where we're trying to go, and how can we go there together. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.
that surrender should be at the peak of that of your the sadhana. That once you surrender yourself and dedicate yourself holistically to the master, then things starts happening on its own actually. Then you are just the replica and under the benign umbrella of that of a master, and then the master, the kites keeps flying in the sky. You can't see the hands of that of your kite player, because if you look at the sky, kite is playing in the air, and that thread is so thin and fine from distance that thread is not visible. But the kite player sitting somewhere out of your sight, the kite player becomes the actual master. Then disciple is being seen in the sky. He should be the kite of that of a master actually, and master keeps playing this game. Then credit go to the master. That kind of surrender has to be there.
You mean she keeps pulling on our string?
Exactly, master. You become the really kite in the hands of your master.
Very nice. Do you have other questions?
Yes. Seema from Sacramento. She says, Namaste Maharaj. How do you rebuild a relationship between a husband and a wife once trust has been lost? What is the first step?
First of all, in our Hindu culture, it is the very purpose of to accept one another as spouse of each other, just to maintain the race, to invite some divine soul in the form of your child. Once that purpose is over, we should really overcome the attachment for this body, and don't forget to see husband. In our culture, we are being taught and told with this divine message being given to the heart and soul to every husband, that he should not forget to see God in her, goddess in her, and the wife should not forget to see God in her husband. In order to actually, if a person accept each other with that kind of divine mentality and outlook, that the husband is supposed to see goddess in his wife, and then wife is supposed to see the replica of God in her husband. This divine awareness actually drives out all sort of mental melancholy states from your mind. Then once you are capable to invite some divine soul in the form of a child, the very purpose is over. Then from that day onwards, you should accept each other like a friend of each other, and never forget that the presence of God and Goddess are very much present in the heart of each of them. So we should not, if you maintain this kind of divine feeling, probably this divine awareness will always refrain you and to stop you doing something wrong. As per people, because of their personal weaknesses, they forget to give that kind of respect to each other. They don't recognize the presence of God in the heart of each other. So, being the victim of their weaknesses, they keep on insulting, they keep on ignoring. Then those kind of complication comes when we forget to accept each other as the part of divinity. And apart from this husband and wife, the basic idea is that presence of God is very much present in the heart of you all. So we should adore and admire and maintain that awareness. If you are under the guidance of some divine personality, that he or she may be your living master. Master always helps you to maintain this divine awareness. Apart from this kind of worldly relationship like husband or wife, but the basic thing is, the fundamental thing is that you as an individual, made out of three main components, body, mind and soul. Body wise we are different from one another, mind wise also we all are different from one another, but soul in you and soul in me, that divine spark of divinity is present in the heart of we all. So at least it becomes our moral duty that we should not forget that insight, to see God in the presence of our husband, and God, the presence of God in our spouses, whether in the form of she or he, or whether in the form of husband or wife. But because we forget that presence of divinity, then we are prone to make many mistakes which we should not.
Swamiji, I believe the question is what happens when you remember? After you've forgotten, how do you put it back together again after it's been broken?
So that is, first of all, that is mind makes the mistake when we forget these things and go out of the track. Then we have to bring them back to make them aware this presence of divinity in the heart of each other. And then because all that complications, differentiations comes, mind is there to divide and heart is there to make the whole. So we should actually come back to the heart, Swamiji. That is what I personally feel. Because the mind, in other way, scientifically if you analyze, that it makes the mistakes and makes the rift actually, the gap. And heart is there, as I told you, the heart is there to respond and hands are there to retaliate and head is there to react. So ultimately we should be heart oriented to get the solution if we want to live together. So we should sit quietly and feel the pulse of the heart. Heart never creates the rifts, it is only head. All that game problems comes from the head. So head has got the tenacity and propensities to create the gap. So we should really feel the presence of God in our heart. And then if you listen to your heart, the real Swamiji, I would quote one of the Sufi master, what he says, Dilruba dil ki sunau, Dilruba dil ki sunau, sunne wala kaun hai. The jar of the master's heart is filled with nectar wine, and he is impatiently eager to call anybody and everybody to pour his divine wine jar into the heart of the disciples. But the disciples, they are not deserving, they are roaming here and there, not listening to the master. He said that if anyone is really keen and deserving disciple, I am ready to pour my heart as it is. Ramakrishna was waiting for that day when Naren came, and otherwise deprived to that, Ramakrishna goes to rooftop and he would cry to Mother Divine, Ma, how long I have to wait? This pressurized him there. He was crying out his heart to Mother Divine, Mother, please send someone where I could pour out my heart as it is. So the Dilruba, he is addressing disciple as the lover or beloved. Dilruba, dil ki sunau, the heart is really pining and passing through a kind of the pain and pangs. I am in the search of that deserving disciple where I could pour out my heart as it is without a list of reservation. So that deserving master has to be there, and disciple has to be there. Master is ready. Like we all are fortunate, Ma is listening quietly as if she doesn't know anything. She has given this freedom that I could talk to you all in front of her. She is otherwise specific ocean. She is sitting close to the specific ocean. She is so calm and so quiet, and has given this freedom to play all around, that is, I am playing, I am answering, So everything again it comes to if a person knows the method, the means and divine and trick and technique, how to get the response from the heart.
Swamiji, can you share with us the technique?
Swamiji, you only know the method. Swamiji and Ma knows, that what I am telling you, the heart in the center.
Show us the technique. Does it have anything specific that we can do? Like, is it dependent upon asana, or pranayama, or mantra, or some other kriya, or some mudra, or is there some specific thing that we can do?
The first thing, like our Bhagavan Ramakrishna says, Tur kache ashu mago shishur mato. Again, this is again one of the specific method of way of approach to the feet of divinity. That forgetting that you are that old, whether forgetting that you are she or he, or you are the father or mother of so many children, that if anybody for that matter, a divine seeker should always entertain this awareness that he or she or you and me, every one of us are the infant children of God. And with that way of approach, however we are dirty, if you rush to the lap of mother, the mother knows the method and means and device how to clean ourselves. We know how to dirty ourselves, to soil ourselves. But if you really put our head at the feet of mother, she knows the method, the means and device and technique, how to keep yourself tidy and clean. And that is the only way, Swamiji. For me, I don't know other method. We should rush to the feet of mother.
Can we have another question from
Yes.
outside?
A question from Nanda in San Jose. She says, some people look upon Sri Ramakrishna or another saint that has left their body as their guru. Can you tell us why it is important to have a living master instead of a master that has left his body?
It happens. Master, like in every biological mother, tries her best so that she should be happy to see when her child on his own starts walking and dancing and playing. But leaving few exceptions, most of the children, mother makes them perfect that in her living period, that so that my child could walk without the help of me. So every living master, directly or indirectly, consciously, unconsciously, more or less, right from dawn to dusk, right from birth till death, that he tries so long that master present in his life with his flesh and bone, he tries to give the divine instruction to that his disciple, so that divine disciple remaining the body and mind, he must go beyond this body and mind, like we call it the lotus coming from the mud and passing through the water and playing in the air. But similarly, every one of us, we start out life with lot of soiling, inviting lot of the dirt from here and there. But in spite of that, if you happen to be in touch with that of a divine master and you inculcate that kind of spirit in you, no matter that physically master might be 1,000 miles away, but master's, the benign umbrella always protects you. That awareness has to be there. When master is still alive, we should try honestly and sincerely, every now and then, whenever you get an opportunity, you should rush to the feet of your living master. And master makes you really perfect. Even sometime when master is no more present in his flesh and bone, you can manage on your own without the physical presence, because master makes you actually feel that you should go while master himself is there present in her or in his flesh and bone. He makes you like the mother sometimes gives the support, physical supports, and sometimes offers the walker, and then sometimes she hides herself and she keeps watching, let me see my child is walking on his own or not. Similarly, the divine master, living master also, after giving that kind of direct instructions, then she has got her inscrutable ways and method and means how to watch, have the watchful eyes on her child, on her disciples. Remaining physically away, he manages actually, and she keeps praying that let my child that should be capable enough to manage without me. No master actually tries to let this disciple should clinging to my feet, till I breathe my last. That never master realizes. Master always tries to make her disciple or his disciple as perfect as anything, so that without master, that disciple can manage himself. So there are exception cases that during the living span of life of a master, if it is the ultimate truth of every one of us, we have to go, we have to drop this physical coil. We cannot keep it for long. We have got our specific time. Once this period is over, the master's soul is there. We die as a body. Master will herself or himself would not like to come to the physical coil once again, unless until certain immediate circumstances are created, emergency. Otherwise, master remaining without the body and mind, he or she, they inspire, they have got 1,001 ways to I have read the book of Living with the Soul of Ma, that Swami has written, that it is one of the very living example. Ramakrishna was not available physically with his flesh and bone, but Ma was capable to get the direct instruction from Ramakrishna. At many of her activities and many of her lifespan, she was inspired. It not only just the fabrication of thoughts of the head, but it is the real life. The master like Ramakrishna was not present physically with his flesh and bone, but living with the soul. That book is the living example that the life of our Sister Ma, it was the living example that it could inspire you and me and many in millions, that even Master is not there present physically, but Master is capable to guide his or her disciples, even remaining without in the flesh and bone. And a deserving disciple can get direct instructions. Sometimes Master appears in the dream and vision, and gives the directions, and you can feel that Master is very much there. Master never dies. Master means Master, he never dies. No matter whether he is physically present or not. That is the deserving disciple would definitely get instructions and directions and inspiration from his Master.
Do we have other questions, please?
Yes, from Tyrone in Vermont. So,
In Vermont?
Vermont.
Ah.
Pranam Swamiji. How can you control your mind from temptations, especially addictions?
Especially?
Addiction.
Oh, right. Oh, my Lord. Addiction. Addiction, if you analyze literally, it is nothing but the force of old habits. Any kind of habits that takes the form of, anything that you keep doing regularly, then it creates a kind of blind addiction. Your body becomes the victim of addictions, and your body and mind, this starts demanding the things. So then you become the slave of, instead of becoming master, any kind of habit. So again you forget, you are not only body, again you are not mind. The main thing that you and me, every one of us are made out of three main divine components, body, mind and soul. And each of them, they have got their own weaknesses. And if you think as a spiritual seeker, then definitely that it should always beg this kind of privilege and blessing from your living master. This should be a kind of addiction. If you are, in order to get rid of this kind of addiction, of negative addiction of your body and mind, then it happens that, they call it the poison can be digested by poison. So this addiction, if you addicted to the feet of your master, then definitely, and that this divine addiction, it dispels this physical and mental addictions. Divine addiction, meditate and prayer. Think like sitting for prayer and keep on crying and cry out your heart to him or to your master. Please, these kind of weaknesses are persisting in my heart, and I have been trying too hard. Like Santa Tulsi says, that day in and day out I have been trying too hard to eradicate and erase and efface all the negative thoughts from my mind, but I could not succeed. I could see they are still persisting. So if you could really express your helplessness, that helplessness directly and indirectly actually helps you to dispel this kind of addiction. If you recognize this is an addiction, this is unhealthy addiction, then first of all you should be in a frame of body and mind to recognize. Many of us, we are not in a position to recognize this is an addiction. Once you recognize, that is the first step. Then you should acquire that energy to eradicate, to erase and to efface, and not to commit that mistake once again. For that matter, we have to seek the favor of living master as well as the master of you all to whom you call God. We go to living master because To begin with, we are not capable to feel and to see the ultimate master. There are two aspects of the master. One is the immediate aspect, other the ultimate aspect. Immediate aspect, like our master, Sri Ma is there and Swami is here. Like we need the immediate helping hands like the biological mother. Unless the human child is being attended by the biological mother, the human child can't actually survive. Similarly, whatever divine virtues are there in you, that all your negative addiction is trying to kill them, for that matter we have to adhere to the feet of our living master. The living master tries how to eradicate, to erase and efface. He is in the form of ultimate Shankara. Shankara, Shiva is the ultimate guru of you all. And for that matter, first we should take the shelter of Mother Shraddha and Vishwas. Bhavani Shankaro Vande Shraddha Vishwas Rupina. In order to eradicate this addiction, first we should take the shelter at the feet of Divine Mother. And living Mother is here. And then Vishwas, the faith and trust, that is Shiva. Shiva himself is nothing but an embodiment of faith, and that is called Vishwas. And Vishwas can be had only by the grace of Mother. Swamiji, in order to eradicate this negative addiction, we should be addicted to feet of our Divine Mother, a Divine Guru. And that is the only ultimate medicine and medication, divine medication. We can get rid of this kind of, Swamiji, this addiction.
You have another question?
Yeah, another question from Seema. What do you do to stop the negative thoughts when someone very close to you has hurt you deeply?
Again, that we have to, Shastra says, Nahi samanna prayatnena dehadi ahankar pumsa nivartate nitya niyata nirvikalpa nishta visesa adhikana vinaha. Means that we all are in body. The body consciousness always prevents us to become humble and to bow down our head to someone. Physically, whether you are she or he or younger old, but point is this, that you are not only body, you are something more than this body, you are mind. Again, you are not only body, mind, you are something more divine, more eternal and immortal, that is soul. So we feel insulted when you think that somebody may be other than you. But the realistic sense, nobody is other, nobody can be otherwise. If you really think in that aspect, for that matter, you have to develop that insight instead of seeing a person as a body and mind. Again, we have to be soul-oriented, heart-oriented, and the one who's standing right in front of you as a person, but probably he may not be in that frame of body and mind to recognize his hidden divinity. At least you as the witness and you as the person, that at least you should not also leave that kind of the insight to recognize the presence of God in him or her. So the main thing that we are prone to make mistake, that when we forget that God is there in me or God is there in him or her. So that godly awareness, that always helps to overcome this kind of the conflict and clash and chaos of the human mind. The mind is always being liquefied, and if you create that kind of bhava, there are the different kind of fire you can create in you, either the Jogagni or Virahagni, that you can drive it out, the sense of duality, that he or she, they are different than that of you. If you can afford to think the entire, like rishis, after reaching that rishihood, they say, Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha sarve sandhu niramayaha, that nobody else exists other than God or other than self. That is how they can embrace the whole universe as the part and parcel of themselves. So any other idea as such, that we have to dispel. You should erase yourself, you as an individual, at the feet of your master so much that there should not be a trace of duality in you. You as an individual should be, evaporates. And when you evaporate, first you take the bulk of the ice, a block of ice you can hold in your hands, and now with the touch of your warmness and heat of your palm, then the block of ice starts melting. That is in the form of water. In the form of the mind, it starts melting, spreading. And then if you create more heat, then where the ice melts into water and water evaporates and then become out of your sight. Any kind of allegation you have against anybody, it will be evaporated. Once you really recognize the presence of God in him or her, that person may be in the form of father, may be form of husband or child, then this allegation, the hatred and any other things will be evaporated. Then you will feel your oneness with one heart. And this kind of duality will be no more there present in you.
We have time for one more question. Just a few minutes for the answer.
Seema has one more question.
Okay.
How can you tell if someone is really a good quality human being?
A good what?
Quality human being.
A good quality human being.
Good quality of human being. First of all, let me tell you, you might all the fruit yielding trees, they keep growing up and up till they starts bearing the fruits. The moment they starts bearing the fruits, then they stop going up, then they starts coming down. With the weight of the fruits or the flowers, then instead of going up, I am quoting the one of the beautiful couplet of Santa Tulsi, says, Phalabhar ananami bitapa sab rahe bhumi niyarai paraupakari purusadimi namai susampati pai. When the human qualities are being in the process of progress in any human personality, it makes you as humble, as pure, as meek, as soft, as sweet, as gentle. The temperament becomes very soft, very gentle. Like Phalabharna Nami Bitapa Sava. Bitap means Sant Sarita Bitap Giri Dharani Parahitakai Inakai Sabakari. Sant, like great master Swami Satyananda, and our devotion like compassion, mother. Sant, first, these are the five personalities. Sant means saints. Sarita means river. Bitap means trees. Giri, the mountain. And Dharani, the mother earth. These are the five. They are, the living example for the humbleness. And they keep bearing the fruits like first Sant. All that virtues they keep observing in that personality. Whosoever they come, they give them shelter. This Mass Ashram is open for all. Anybody and everybody, she is in the habit of giving. Sant Sarita, the river keeps flowing, giving water to anybody and everybody without any restriction. Bitap, the trees, they keep yielding the fruits and flowers. They never demand anything in return. Sant Sarita, Bitap, Giri, the mountains, they are the holder of gems and jewels and many other, they are mine of golds and diamonds. Sant Sarita, Bitap, Giri, Dharani, and Mother Earth. She herself is the mine of all the jewels and gems. So the human qualities, first of all, that he should be free from pride and vanity, and should be as humble like our great master, like child he was. When you were dancing with the Aarti, I could really feel like to join you, but I could not venture that kind of courage. But Swami, you were dancing, bringing this vertical mind, and he was following your steps. He was inspired. While working, he was dancing. You were doing Aarti and dancing in state of Hava. And this credit again, I am telling you, you are so young, but this spirit is being given by the holy presence of Mother Divine. You could make yourself to dance while making aarti. So the most envious and most desires quality of a person, human quality, be as humble, as polite, as gentle, as meek, as soft and as sweet. So these are the qualities can't be hidden. It can be, if there are certain qualities that are so obvious and so conspicuous, you just can't afford to miss it. It is there. And the more you acquire those human qualities, the more you become soft and sweet in manners. You know. So that is the recognition. You can't, whenever sun rises, no power on the earth can hide it. So these are the qualities become so obvious and so conspicuous, so striking to the eye, you just can't avoid.
Om Swami Saraswati Namaha. Thank you very much, Swamiji. We appreciate so much your sharing your inspiration and your wisdom with us. And everybody, Swamiji lives in Mayakund in Rishikesh. He's got a beautiful ashram. We go there every year. And you're certainly welcome to drop in or send him, if you need his email address, if you're going to Rishikesh, send me a note and I'll give it to you. Thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll continue tomorrow night with our Sundar Kund class, but we had a Swami Kund class tonight, so this.
All the viewers wanted to say, Swamiji, please bless us to be lucky to feel the love that you have in your heart and the oneness that you have with God. Thank you for answering our questions.
So nice of you all. I extend my cordial invitation to you all, and then when you get an opportunity, my so kind and compassionate on me, and so is Swamiji, and at least whenever they come to India, then they are so kind, they step into my, what it is called, it belongs to her. I try my best to give my all, but I am the most naughty and guilty child, but still my so kind, she had been coming, and I am here in the holy presence of you all in her. It is because of her presence, our holy presence. This credit is good to her. So I invite you all from the very core of my heart, and when you get an opportunity, you are welcome to there. That ashram belongs to Maya and Swamiji. You know, from the core of my heart, I keep telling this, shouting and yelling and screaming. Physically, people might be knowing that ashram belongs to me, but mentally and from the very core of my heart, I have given to this Ma and Swamiji. They are all in all, and they are the master of that task.
Namaste, Swamiji. Thank you, Srima. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you all tomorrow night. Jai.
Yeah. Namaste, Swamiji.
So kind of you, keep me at